I have these questions about the way we talk, the way we see, about language and knowledge, about the self and perception, about looking and seeing. I'm wondering if these two words that we use rather interchangeably, looking and seeing, might mean two very different things. I think about these words a lot as someone who sees differently. I am an artist. I'm a writer. I have a blinding eye disease. Kind of tragic for the visual artist, but c'est la vie. It is my reality. The way that sight works in my body is that my vision is a tunnel that is slowly getting tighter, and I'm awake inside of eyes that are falling asleep. So how can I be without these questions? What does it mean to look? What does it mean to see? And how does it feel to be looked at or to be seen? In the summer of 2018, I was traveling in Italy. I had gone to Florence looking for something, but for what, I wasn't certain. Some kind of presence, some kind of purpose, something sublime and devastating. I was wandering through these quiet residential streets when I came upon a set of glass doors at the ground level, open to the street. I could see the walls inside were freckled with paintings, portraits in the classical style. I went in. There was a man, an artist, a painter. I tried to tell him in sorry, fragmented Italian that I was an artist too. I was studying. I was from Canada. Sono canadese. Io studio l'arte. But he didn't understand me. So I tried again in English, and that time he understood perfectly. It turned out that he was French. He had moved to Florence to study painting and hadn't left. We didn't talk for long, and then he offered to paint me. But I was bashful, shy, used to feeling safe behind my camera. I had loved paintings my whole life, tacking postcards from every gallery I visited to my bedroom walls. But me, the subject of someone else's painting, me in the visual language of classical portraiture. No, I hadn't imagined that. This painter offered me a bargain. He said that he would paint me, and if I liked the work, I'd buy it. If I didn't, he would keep it. I told him I'd think about it, and I left. And not 10 feet out the door, I turned back on my heel, went back inside. I said I would return the following day, and we would paint. And that's how I began my practice of commissioning oil portraits as performance art, my exploration of gaze. In this man's offer to paint me, I was given the opportunity to move out of the periphery, to insert myself into the space of the subject, and to ask my questions through a trial by fire. In portraiture, are we looked at or are we seen? When I returned to the painter's studio the following day, he sat me down behind his easel. He told me to think very carefully about where I would be looking while he painted me, because it was my gaze that would determine the mood of the portrait. Easy. He stood to my left, I looked to my right. No way could I fathom an afternoon of watching this man look at me so he could paint me. I was too afraid of his gaze, of what I might see there in his face while he looked at me. Afraid of being looked at for so long, and afraid of this deeper kind of looking, afraid of being seen. And when she was finished, that second self, that painted version of me, I felt it. Do you remember? I told you I had gone to Florence looking for something, and here I had found it, that sublime and devastating thing. I can tell you now, a few years on, that I was wondering if it would feel possible in portraiture to feel deeply seen. I was looking for myself inside of my likeness, because the self and likeness often feel like two very different things. There is the exterior self, our faces, bodies, features, colors, lines, shapes, widths, and on. But that can sometimes feel rather arbitrary. There's the interior self, our private phenomenon of self, the feeling of our being. But both of these are inconstant, ever-changing. So when we pose for a portrait, be it oil painting or Instagram selfie, where is the self inside of what we look like? Between August 2018 and April 2019, I returned to Florence 3 more times for a total body of 9 live performances for portraits. From the first commission on, I was the author of these paintings. It was exciting, with the power, mobility, and agency of the 21st century woman to be flipping the script on the tradition of the classical European painter. I was not passive. But neither was this painter. He understood my project. We were in agreement that my commissioned paintings were mine. I conceptualized them, I performed for them, I paid for them. They simply would not exist without me. But for this work to be successful, we had to work together in looking and seeing. I continued to search for myself inside of my likeness, each painting trying something new, every work becoming a little theater of identity. I asked him to paint me from behind to see if I would still look like me in the absence of mouth or nose or eyes. I asked him to paint my right hand holding my severed braid of hair, to paint me like the Madonna with a hairline halo wrapped around my head, to paint me petulant, pouting, with a book in my hand after my favorite 500-year-old portrait hanging in a gallery down the block. I asked him to paint me with a blindfold over my eyes. The longer he knew me, the more these portraits felt like me. Part of this, of course, is practice, that the longer he looked at me, the better he was able to represent me. But there is another kind of likeness that grew inside of these portraits. After 4 seasons of these performances for paintings, not only did the work look like me, it felt like me. And the better I felt known as a person, as myself, the more I felt seen. I did not begin this practice of commissioning oil portraits with a hypothesis or an agenda. It was much more urgent than that. A blend of passion and excitement and an excavation of myself. And a romantic curiosity to know what would happen if. And there is another kind of urgency in my relationship to my body. That I must know it, must know my body and face as a thing, must burn them into my consciousness for as long as I am able to see them. Because we look to the image for some kind of truth of being. And the experience of images, of sight, is precarious to me. As an artist, I am not looking for answers. I am looking to ask better questions. That is why an art practice is a practice. It is without achievable perfection. All of this work in the performance of portraiture has opened the world to me, has shown me what it is like to be rendered through someone else's eyes, has let me watch myself form like wetted clay in the palms of someone else's mind. Looking is easy. To the sighted person, it is compulsory. When the eye is open, it is looking. The registration of light, texture, line, shape, scale, tone. Looking happens in the eye. It is straightforward, physical, clean. Seeing is much more complicated. It takes time. A psychological act rooted in interpretation and identity. Seeing is subjective. It is beautiful. It is messy. I think about the way we say the words, I see you, so as to say, I know you. About the way we trust in the image implicitly. And all of these performances for portraits, all of this work in the excavation of self and being seen, I have come to realize something. That because we are ever changing, we must always be working on our seeing. That this work is the open door to a lifetime of excitement and searching and possibility. So I ask you to slow down, to take care in your practice of sight as a practice of self, and to forget that tired sentiment we say, I'll believe it when I see it. Instead, I offer you this in its place. 7 simple words to remember how to see. I'll see it when I believe it. Thank you.